It's the Rainbow Warlord. I took the Rainbow Warrior pattern and gave it a little more jazz and pizzazz to make it truly irresistible. We're gonna tie it up. So grab a cup of chill as we sit back and go on the Vise with the FlyOlderGuy. Alright, so on the Vise we have a size 14 curve check Nymph hook. And I put a phosphorescent bead head on it. You can see me spinning it so you can notice all the different colors it has. On the bobbin, we're going to go with some UTC 70 in a red. Red is a traditional color for this fly. I'm going to start the thread just behind that bead head. And we're going to use the thread just to keep it in place. We're not really worried about locking it in because we're going to pile up some materials and dubbing back there, and the bead head's not going anywhere. So we'll just get a little bit of a thread base started. I'm going to speed it up. But you do want to have a nice thread base. Try to have touching wraps down all the way to the real bend of the hook there. Next, we're going to grab our tailing material, and we're going to use Col de Leon. I like the CDL for tailing most flies. It's just a quality material. A decent size bunch of these fibers. And get them situated, tips as even as possible. And we're going to tie them in pretty much right there where I stopped the thread at the start of what you would call the bend on this hook, I guess. And just pinch wrap, lock them right in, a couple of loose wraps, and then we start to really tighten it up. Work your way down a little bit because we want these fibers to be like downward facing. Coming up, we're going to just trim off these butt ends and then going to just cover them up with a little more thread. The red color is sort of the base color of this fly. I'm going to just cover the butt ends, go back a little bit there to our tie-in point, we'll call it, and grab some wire. This is some small silver wire. Trim off about 2 inches just so you have something to work with. It makes it a little easier to work with. I have material scissors. You always want to have a separate pair of scissors to cut materials. Things like metal and plastics can wear down your scissors, so we're going to tie in this wire right there at the tie-in point. Again, like 2 loose wraps, and then you can adjust it and then really get it locked in. And I can just tie up over the butt end of that. And again, just leave it right there at what I'll call our tie-in point. If I can get it there. There we go. So the next material we're going to tie in is the metallic Madeira material. You know, I use this a lot. I have an abundance of it. But just going to, again, about 2 inches. We'll trim off of that. That's going to give the fly a little more sparkle, a little more flash. So that's going to get tied in, a couple loose wraps, pull it back, wrap down, and you can see the tail is sticking out. I left it a little long, and that's because as we start to finish up the fly and wrap all our materials in, I'm going to have it pointed down a bit more, because with this fly, also traditionally you want to have it pointed down a bit on the tail. Now I'm just going to trim off the butt ends of that Madeira material, wrap over the butt ends, just seal it all in, build up a little bit of a thread body before tying in this tinsel. This is the pearl tinsel material, and it's a larger size one. I'm going to take, again, 2.5 inches so we have some material to work with. You always, give yourself enough to work with. You don't want to waste it, but, don't short yourself. So with this, we're going to tie it in flat. Going to pinch it in there and just tie it in flat on top of the body. Again, 2 loose wraps. Give it a little pull to adjust the length, and then lock it in. And we're just going to wrap up and back and then down, really covering this tinsel and creating a nice red underbody. And as I said earlier, all the way down, now that we have all our materials in, now I'm keeping an eye on that tail. And I just want to keep wrapping it down till the tail points downward, just about like that, and then build our way back up with the thread, all the way up to the bead head again. So a nice little thread base here. You can see we've built up this red thread body that's going to be underneath the pearl tinsel, leaving the thread just behind the head. And then the best thing to do is just rest that thread in the bobbin cradle so that you have a little bit more room to work with as you wrap this tinsel. And we're going to just start off carefully. You see I go down, I pinch that tail a little bit. I don't want to do that, so just take your time, start the wrap off right. If you start it right, it will definitely help with the rest of the wrapping. So we'll speed this up a little bit, but you want to take your time and carefully wrap this tinsel. Nice, even overlapping wraps. When you get to that section of the body where it bends, just take that extra second to make sure it's aligned properly. We have nice overlaps happening. It's going to slip a little bit at the end, but we definitely overlapped everything. We're looking good on the body. Now we're going to lock in this tinsel. Now traditional Rainbow Warriors don't seem to have the case. I like to give it a little bit of a wing case, so I keep the tinsel on at this point. This pearl tinsel, just keep it folded forward, give it a little wrap around to keep it in place, and then back to the cradle with the bobbin, and it's time for our Madeira material. So it's going to be extra sparkly over this tinsel. Again, very careful at the beginning. Don't trap those tail fibers, but nice even wraps up the body as best you can, bringing them really flush with that tinsel, and then shorten up your threads so you have more control, and just wrap that in, lock in that Madeira material. 2 or 3 wraps usually does it, couple behind, one in front. I always like to lock in front too, and just trim it out. Now once that's trimmed out, we're going to wrap our wire. So back to the cradle and grab that wire. And I'm going to wrap the wire the opposite direction that I've wrapped everything else to help sort of lock it in place, just give it a little opposite wrap. Nice, get it locked at the base there, and then working up, even wraps all the way up the body. Gonna just lock it in right behind all the other material there, right by the bead head. You can leave the wire kind of hanging down because it's wire, and then you can lock it in with 2 wraps in the back, pull the wire back, give it 1 in the front, and come in with our material scissors and trim that out. There we go. Now there's probably a little bit of a tag end there to that wire, so just going to wrap the thread over a couple times, cover that up, pull back the pearl tinsel, going to lock that down facing back like that and create a little bit of an area to dub our thorax in. Traditional Rainbow Warriors have a nice thorax, but they don't have the wing case that we're creating. So we're going to make the thorax right now with some of the homemade rainbow dubbing. I took some hare's ear gray dubbing that's really got some guard hairs in it, mixed it with all different colors. You want to have very shiny, sparkly dubbing in there, like Antron. I have a bloody black that has a lot of reddish sparkle in it, and then I threw some green and pink in there, bright colors and darker colors. Mix it all up. Make your own rainbow dubbing, all right? We're going to dub on a nice little tiny noodle there, but you can see it's got some thickness to it, and it's got some guard hair sticking out, so it's got a little action to it, It's not just some skinny little dubbing noodle, all right? Something that we can, put this little case over here that we're creating. So we pull the pearl tinsel forward to create this little bit of a wing case, and then lock it in. Now, a few wraps, and then we're going to pull it back and then lock it in that way too. And trim out the material. You can see you got a nice little shiny wing case in there. It's going to give it a little extra attraction. And that's what you want in this fly, is just a very attractive, shiny, attention-getting fly. So we're going to put a little bit of a collar on there, right? And then we can grab our whip finish tool and give it a nice 5-turn whip finish. And I want these turns right up against that bead head, so we'll take our time, make it right. 4, 5, right? Pop it off, and then just trim off the thread nice and close. And you can see we got segments on there already. That wing case is looking good. We'll give it a nice little look at the top. Looking good, looking shiny. And we can give it a little bit more of a shine there if we want by putting some UV resin on there. It's just going to step it up a little bit more. So I've got a thin UV clear resin. I'm going to put 1 drop just, on that wing case right behind that bead head. It's going to help just put even more shine on there. Grab the UV light and cure our resin. Like to definitely give it 20, 30 seconds. Really make sure you're curing that resin. Don't, sell yourself short on this, because it can be sticky, especially if your light isn't quite up to snuff. So just rotating it around, making sure we have a nice seal on this resin. Looking good though. It really is looking good. Segments, nice little wing case. Good little fly there. The Rainbow Warlord. That's my take on the Rainbow Warrior. A real traditional nymph and very effective. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the tie. Till the next one, stay fly.